Live from New Delhi, you're watching the India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvita Nija, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India and Japan hold their third 2+2 dialogue in New Delhi to strengthen regional security and cooperation. India and Malaysia elevate their ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership, impacts on recruitment, Ayurveda and tourism promotion, among others. And Israeli military retrieves bodies of 6 hostages held in Gaza, just as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken pushed for progress towards a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal in Egypt. In a pivotal move to strengthen regional security and cooperation, India and Japan have further solidified their strategic partnership. The two nations held the third India-Japan 2+2 dialogue in New Delhi, where foreign and defence ministers from both the sides convened to discuss pressing security challenges and explore avenues for enhanced collaboration. The ministers exchanged views on regional and global issues, emphasising the importance of upholding democratic values and the rule of law. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim is on a visit to India and met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday. Both the leaders held bilateral meetings to discuss further engagement across various domains of partnership and explored new areas of collaboration. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
India and Malaysia ties are at a new high as both nations elevate their relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership. This visit marks a significant milestone in enhancing the strategic partnership between India and Malaysia, focusing on boosting trade, investment and regional cooperation.
Semiconductor, fintech, रक्षा उद्योग, AI और क्वांटम में हमें आपसी सहयोग बढ़ाना चाहिए। हमने भारत और मलेशिया के बीच कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन एग्रीमेंट के रिव्यू में गति लाने पर बल दिया है। डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी में सहयोग के लिए डिजिटल काउंसिल की स्थापना करने का और स्टार्टअप अलायंस बनाने का निर्णय लिया है। भारत के यूपीआई और मलेशिया के पे नेट को जोड़ने के लिए भी काम किया जाएगा।
Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar held bilateral talks with Indian counterpart Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
भारत आसियान सेंट्रलिटी को प्राथमिकता देता है। हम सहमत हैं कि भारत और आसियान के बीच एफटीए की समीक्षा को समयबद्ध तरीके से पूरा करना चाहिए। 2025 में मलेशिया की सफल आसियान अध्यक्षता के लिए भारत पूरा समर्थन देगा।
The discussions span a broad range of global and regional topics.
We have agreed to enhance further and make it a comprehensive strategic partnership. Yes, Malaysia and India from the days of Jawaharlal Nehru and Tunku Abdul Rahman has established good relations. But we realize under our generation that this must be further strengthened in a multitude of areas.
Several key MOUs were signed during this visit, further solidifying the relationship. These include an MOU on the recruitment, employment and repatriation of workers, a memorandum on cooperation in the field of Ayurveda and traditional medicine, an agreement on digital technologies, collaboration, a program of cooperation in culture, arts and heritage, an MOU on tourism cooperation, a partnership between the youth and sports ministries of both countries, an agreement on public administration and governance reforms, a cooperation pact between the International Financial Services Authority of India and Malaysia's Labuan Financial Services Authority. Additionally, the 9th India-Malaysia CEO Forum convened on August 19, showcasing vibrant business ties and identifying new opportunities for collaboration. The visit underscores the historical, cultural and economic linkages between India and Malaysia and is expected to lay the foundation for deeper multi-sectoral cooperation, further strengthening the strategic partnership and paving the way for a prosperous future for both countries. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
Earlier, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim was accorded a ceremonial welcome at India's presidential palace, the Rashtrapati Bhavan. This is the first visit of Prime Minister Ibrahim to India as Malaysia's Prime Minister. The visit will give a boost to India-Malaysia comprehensive strategic partnership. Malaysia is a key pillar of India's Act East policy and a valued partner in the region. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim arrived in India on Monday on a 3-day state visit at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Following the ceremonial reception, the visiting Prime Minister of Malaysia proceeded to the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial at Rajghat Memorial Complex to lay a wreath there. Ibrahim also signed the visitors' book at the Rajghat. The visiting Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim called on India's President Draupadi Murmu at India's presidential palace, the Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. Ibrahim held talks with India's President Draupadi Murmu to strengthen their historical and socio-cultural linkages. The Malaysian Prime Minister is on a state visit to India. Talking to media persons about Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's visit, Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs of India, Jaideep Majumdar, announced that India and Malaysia trade has reached $20 billion.
Bilateral trade has also been booming. It's now touched $20 billion. Malaysia is our third largest trading partner in ASEAN. Fintech startups, cross-border payments systems and UPI-based systems are the new drivers of our engagement with Malaysia. And we look forward, the two prime ministers have in fact tasked us to set up a task force to implement all the diverse areas of engagement that we have identified during this visit.
Malaysia is home to many Indian workers to enhance tourism and boom business between the two countries. The Secretary said that India has announced free e-visas from July 1st to Malaysians travelling to the nation for work or for leisure.
It is also home to many skilled and unskilled workers and IT professionals from India who participate in the Malaysian economy and contribute to its growth and development. We have announced free e-visas for Malaysian tourists coming to India since the 1st of July. And Malaysia similarly has a visa-free regime for Indians, both for tourism and business purposes, starting from the end of last year. So from all these accounts, we can expect our tourism traffic between the two countries, as well as business travel to boom, which will also help our aviation sectors.
The MEA Secretary also highlighted the importance of several memorandum of understanding signed today.
There were several important agreements that were signed during this time. An important area is in the recruitment, employment, and repatriation of workers. Another MOU that was signed was in the area of public administration and governance reform. A third on digital technologies, one on cultural cooperation, an agreement on tourism promotion.
In response to the escalating global Mpox outbreak, the Indian government has increased security measures at airports, ports and borders with Bangladesh and Pakistan, instructing authorities to closely screen international travellers for symptoms of the virus. This enhanced vigilance aims to bolster India's defences against the spread of Mpox as worldwide cases continue to surge. India's top court, while hearing a suo motu plea on Tuesday in connection with the rape and murder of a trainee doctor in Kolkata, set up a 10-member national task force to make recommendations on prevention of violence and safe working conditions for medical professionals. The court has also directed the National Task Force to submit an interim report within 3 weeks and the final report within 2 months. Terming the incident as horrific, India's top court came down heavily on the West Bengal government over delay in filing FIR in the matter. The Supreme Court also directed the CBI to file status report by August 22nd on investigation in the Kolkata rape murder case. A memorandum of understanding was signed between LNG Petronet Limited, India's biggest gas importer, and a Sri Lanka-based private company for infrastructure development and supply of liquefied natural gas in Colombo. The 5-year agreement will give a major boost to the island nation's efforts towards sustainable energy generation and allow for development of LNG-based power plants with capacity of over 1,000 megawatt at Kerawala Pittia near Colombo, as well as supply of the fuel from Kochi LNG terminal. Sri Lanka's Minister for Power and Energy, Kanchan Vijayeshwara, and Deputy High Commissioner of India, Dr. Satyanjal Pandey, witnessed the signing of the MOU. Speaking at the event, Mr. Vijayeshwara thanked the Indian government for its extended support to Sri Lanka during the crisis.
Appreciate the assistance the government of India extended to Sri Lanka during the most difficult period, supporting financially with the loan facilities, credit facilities, supplying with the necessary fuel facilities, LNG for the use of households, LNG for the use of domestic requirements.
Africa needs trade and not aid. This move has slowly changed the narrative about Africa through innovation and was the talking point at the 19th India-Africa Business Conclave in New Delhi. The aim of the conclave is to boost Africa's growth and enhance India-Africa partnership in the global value chain integration with participation from dignitaries and ministers across Africa and beyond. We have a report.
The 19th edition of the India-Africa Business Conclave aims to serve as a catalyst for Africa's growth. The African continent is on the path to average growth estimated at around 4% in 2024-25, which is higher than the 3.1% estimate in 2023. However, the continent faces a financing gap of $402 billion leading up to 2030 that needs to be bridged to keep the growth wheel moving.
We need to design new paradigm shift in terms of financing models and make sure that we help Africa not only when we have problems, not only when we want to support the infrastructure aspect, but connecting our raw materials to the industry level. I call it from farms to the factory.
Another trade potential is the rise of vehicle demand in Africa. As the demand increases, the demand for cost-effective eco-friendly solutions has set off an electric vehicle or an EV revolution in Africa. The African EV market is expected to reach $21.39 billion by 2027, nearly doubling from $11.94 billion in 2021.
Africa today is going through a remarkable transformation. Rapid urbanization and investments in infrastructure, fueling growing demands for mass transportation and increasingly growing sensitization for sustainable mobility solutions are indicators of a much brighter future.
That energy is a key enabler of sustainable transportation. And I must really add that as Malawi, we've put in quite a lot of effort in the green minerals, because we cannot talk of the EVs before you talk about lithium batteries, before you talk about minerals that will power and energize the EVs.
This three-day event will see the participation of numerous dignitaries, highlighting the significance of the conclave in fostering stronger bilateral and multilateral relations between India and Africa. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
You're with us on DD India Live, still to come on this edition. Will have a big effect, say social media influencers who hope to push for Harris-Walz's ticket at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. And divers scour wreck of luxury yacht in search for 6 missing in Sicily.
The World Wildlife Organization tells us that over 3 billion people across the globe rely on seafood. There are efforts being made to preserve our marine ecosystem. So let's dive right in.
The course of the river was getting shrinked in the upstream areas. And when there is no freshwater flow, the river Ichamoti only survives in the downstream areas, and it has become, in our terminology, we call it a tidal inlet.
Habitat from so many places in the world, and people didn't even know that it had happened.
Mussels that live at the bottom of the lake have this large effect on the biology of the entire lake.
This is the poster that we provide to people on our fish walks. So they can just look at this and identify which are the fish in season, and when we give them the test to go out and identify sustainable fish.
It's worrying because rising temperatures cause the water to expand, and with it, the sea level to rise.
Welcome back. You're watching Did India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. Ahead of the US presidential election, Democrats have invited social media influencers to cover the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. The 4-day event will be covered by many influencers. Supporters of Vice President Kamala Harris are using the internet as a tool to create videos against former President Donald Trump. The Democratic Party aims to gain popularity via internet using platforms such as that of TikTok and Instagram, but edited videos and fake accounts are a growing concern. US President Joe Biden delivered his farewell speech at the opening night of the 2024 Democratic National Convention amid the presence of influencers. So, making a surprise appearance at the convention, Vice President Kamala Harris said that the November election will allow people to come together and move forward with optimism, hope and faith.
This November, we will come together and declare with one voice, as one people, we are moving forward. With optimism, hope, and faith, so guided by our love of country, knowing we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Let us fight for the ideals we hold dear, and let us always remember, when we fight, we win.
On to West Asia now. Top US diplomat Antony Blinken visited Egypt on Tuesday to discuss a potential ceasefire in Gaza following Israel's acceptance of a US proposal for a deal. Blinken held talks with Egypt's President al-Sisi and is likely to meet Qatar's Emir in Doha to broker a ceasefire in the Gaza conflict. Egypt's President Sisi urged immediate end to the Gaza conflict, warning that further escalation could lead to regional expansion with unimaginable consequences. US optimism aside, both Israel and Hamas have indicated that reaching an agreement for a ceasefire will be difficult. Israel's Prime Minister's office, meanwhile, on Tuesday confirmed the bodies of 6 hostages from Gaza's Khan Yunis to have been retrieved as negotiations continue to bring back more than 100 who remain in the besieged enclave. The bodies of the hostages were found overnight in southern Gaza. The families of the deceased have been informed. The Hostages Families Forum, an organization that represents most hostage families, called on the government to seal the hostage deal with Hamas. And tensions between Israel and Hezbollah continue to simmer, with the cycle of tit-for-tat strikes and counter-strikes fueling ongoing instability. Israel has released footage of its military targeting Hezbollah's military infrastructure across Lebanon, including a recent strike on an arms depot in the Bekaa Valley. Multiple weapons storage sites were also hit in the same area. Israel also reported neutralizing a Hezbollah operative responsible for rocket and missile operations in southern Lebanon and conducting airstrikes against another Hezbollah cell in Taibeh. On to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. In an overnight retaliatory attack by Russia, 9 regions in the center, north and south of Ukraine were targeted. Ukrainian forces on Tuesday shot down 3 missiles and 25 drones. Addressing a group of diplomats, Ukrainian President Zelensky highlighted the achievements in the recent incursion.
Ukrainian warriors continue the defensive operation in designated areas of the Kursk region. As of today, our forces control more than 1,250 square kilometers of enemy territory and 92 settlements. We continue to strengthen our positions, stabilize designated areas, and what is very important, replenish the exchange fund for Ukraine. Overall, this operation has become our largest investment in the process of liberating Ukrainian men and women from Russian captivity. We have already captured the largest number of Russian prisoners in a single operation, and this is a significant result, and this is one of our goals, and our actions continue.
In a recent development, the Russian Defense Forces have claimed control over New York in the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine. Russia released a video showing the aftermath of destruction in the Kursk region. A number of Ukrainian military vehicles were found destroyed. DD India's Dasha Chernyshova sent us this report from Moscow.
The Russian Defense Ministry says Russian armed forces have taken control of one of the largest settlements of the Tariffs agglomeration and a strategically important logistics hub of Novgorodsk, also known as New York, in the Donetsk People's Republic. This is set to allow the Russian troops to develop an offensive to the north towards Tariffs, a fortified area of the Ukrainian armed forces. Meanwhile, Ukraine's incursion of Russia's Kursk region entered its 3rd week. Russian military continue to release videos of how they are destroying the Ukrainian military on the Russian soil. Officials in Russia say Ukrainian troops move their most combat-ready units from the front line to the Kursk direction. The process of evacuation is ongoing, and more people have been relocated from the border districts of the Kursk and Belgrade regions. Health authorities said 17 people were killed in the Kursk region and 140 got injured as a result of the Ukrainian attack. The Ministry of Defense also said that it destroyed 2 Ukrainian drones over Crimea overnight. Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
On to Europe now. Divers scoured the wreck of a luxury yacht off Sicily's coast on Tuesday to find 6 missing people, including British tech entrepreneur Mike Lynch and a Morgan Stanley executive, following an intense storm that sank the vessel on Monday. The British-flagged Bayesian was carrying 22 people and anchored off the port of Porticello when it was hit by the fierce storm. 15 people escaped before it capsized, including Lynch's wife, Angela Bakeris, and a 1-year-old girl, and the body of one person who died was swiftly recovered. Specialist divers had reached the ship on Monday at a depth of some 50 meters, though the operation is complex due to numerous obstacles and the narrowness of the access passages. The European Commission has cut its proposed tariff on imports of Tesla cars built in China as it broadly maintained other planned punitive duties it set in July on Chinese-made electric vehicles. In the highest profile European Union probe of alleged Chinese subsidies, the Commission issued draft definitive findings of its anti-subsidy investigation, which has provoked threats of retaliation from Beijing. It set a new reduced rate of 9% for Tesla, lower than 20.8% it had indicated in July. The EU executive on Tuesday said that it still believed Chinese EV production had benefited from extensive subsidies and proposed final duties of up to 36.3%. Back to Asia, Australia and Indonesia signed a treaty-level defence cooperation agreement which allows Australian and Indonesian militaries to operate from each other's countries. In a joint press conference in Canberra with Indonesia President-elect Prabowo Subianto, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that the deal will be a vital plank for our 2 countries to support each other's security, which is vital to both countries but also to the stability of the region.
This historic treaty will bolster our strong defence cooperation by deepening dialogue, strengthening interoperability and enhancing practical arrangements. It will be a vital plank for our two countries to support each other's security, which is vital to both countries, but also to the stability of the region that we share.
Over 200 South Korean and US fighter jets are due to fly around the clock for 5 days this week, marking the largest number of sorties flown in training by the Allies. South Korea's Air Force said on Tuesday that the drills are part of the annual Ulchi Freedom Shield exercises, designed to boost the joint readiness of South Korean and US militaries against threats from North Korea. Video released by South Korea's Defense Ministry showed South Korean F-15K and F-A-50 fighters taking off to join the air drills. The United States stationed some 28,500 troops in the south for combined defense against nuclear-armed North Korea. And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. The first £1 coins with King Charles III's portrait enter circulation across the UK this week, as confirmed by the Royal Mint. Nearly 3 million coins will be distributed via post offices and banks. The coins also feature an imprint of British bees, part of new designs supporting species conservation. The first supermoon of 2024 rose over Paris on Monday night, casting a glow over the iconic Eiffel Tower. A supermoon is a celestial event where the moon appears noticeably larger than usual due to its closer proximity to Earth in its orbital path. The supermoon event was also witnessed in Asia and Australia. Now, in an exclusive conversation with DD India, ISRO Chairman Dr. S. Somnath shared progress on India's ambitious human space mission called the Gaganyaan. He confirmed that the first test flight of India's human-rated Gaganyaan rocket is set for December 2024.
The last about 4 or 5 years, we have been working on this program for building a rocket which will be human-rated, building the craft that is called the Gaganyaan craft, the crew module, and the associated complex systems, the crew escape system and the intelligence in the rocket which are required to carry out this mission. I can tell you that we have reached the threshold of completing the rocket ready. The rocket is already completed the human rating and is at Satish Dhawan Space Center for ready for launch. The crew module and the rest of the elements are new developments. Of course, this has gone through certain development process. We did some missions in the recent times showcasing how the crew escape can really happen. The flight item is now finally undergoing the integration, and still there are some milestones to cross, like the development of crew. For example, environmental control life support system is under development and many such smaller elements. So, the first mission we are undertaking without crew inside, but with a robot which will be replicating the human flight scenarios and do the measurements. Vyomitra, of course. Humanoid, yes. So, the crew module, the crew escape system and other elements will come to launch complex by next 2 months or so. And we will be ready for the first mission, the unmanned mission, uncrewed mission to space by December this year.
Talking about India's first National Space Day on August 23rd, ISRO chief said that India's space story is about both milestone achievements like Chandrayaan-3 as well as becoming relevant in everyday lives of people.
Being the first National Space Day have its prominence, so that it has to get embedded into the minds of the people that we are going to this. So, that is why it is important. See, we have all the time telling that we are touching the lives of the people. And when we do so, the reason for going to moon has always been questioned. And the connection between these two are very, very evident today, because it is inspiring people, it is inspiring youngsters, it is also bringing in new talents and technology into the domain of the space. So, traditionally we have been working with people serving the humanity, like in disaster management, natural resource mapping, communication. Now, today we are into the space, looking at moon and Mars and beyond the universe. Yes.
Shifting focus to Asia Pacific, China and the Philippines are trading accusations after several Coast Guard vessels collided in a disputed part of the South China Sea. Beijing says the actions taken by Manila were deliberate, while Philippines officials accuse the Chinese Coast Guard of acting recklessly. DD India's William Denslow has more from Hong Kong.
The incident occurred around 3:30 on Monday morning, and what has transpired since, very much a war of words between Beijing and Manila. On Monday, we heard from Chinese Coast Guard officials saying that the Philippines' actions that led to these collisions between the Coast Guard ships as deliberate, saying that Manila had ignored warnings from China's Coast Guard. Subsequently, we have heard from a foreign ministry spokesperson from Beijing, Mao Ning, who said that China will take resolute measures to defend its maritime rights and territorial sovereignty, adding that these actions taken by the Philippines, it claims, threatens the stability in the South China Sea. This is a territory that China certainly claims much of, a stance that was reputed strongly by a 2016 ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration, a ruling that Beijing has thoroughly rejected. Now, we have heard from the Philippines as well, who it is reported was seeking to resupply one of its vessels that it intentionally grounded in the Second Thomas Shoal. Now, according to the Philippines, they say 2 of its Coast Guard vessels were damaged in this incident on Monday, saying that China was involved in unlawful and aggressive maneuvers. This is a point very much reiterated by the US State Department, commenting on this incident, with the US State Department saying that China had engaged in dangerous actions and reckless maneuvers. William Denslow in Hong Kong reporting for DD India.
So the Philippines says that China's Coast Guard are not helping efforts to build confidence in the South China Sea. The Philippines has also urged China to refrain from aggressive actions and adhere to international law. The latest incident took place near the Sabina Shoal as the Philippines conducted a resupply mission to 2 islands it occupies in the Spratly chain. China has challenged Manila's account and said that the Philippine Coast Guard acted in an unprofessional and dangerous manner. Taiwan showed off its missile firepower on Tuesday, launching a battery of surface-to-air missiles in front of reporters during a visit to a sensitive test site on a remote part of the island's southeastern coast. Taiwan has complained of stepped-up Chinese military activity as Beijing seeks to assert its sovereignty claims, and Taipei has been strengthening its deterrence abilities. At the Jiupeng base in Taiwan's Pingtung County, the military test fired both US-made Patriot and Taiwan-made Skybow third missiles into the skies as dawn broke, while a warship off the coast fired a RIM-66 Standard missile. And next, action from the world of sports. Preparations at the Paralympic Village for the upcoming Games are in full swing as the village is set to open its doors for the arrival of participating athletes in late August. The village will welcome more than 4,400 Paralympic athletes from 171 countries. Some athletes are already on site, but the official opening of the village is planned on August 21st. For the first time, the prosthetics, orthotics and wheelchairs repair centre is located in the heart of the village. The Paralympic Games will last until September the 8th. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently interacted with the Indian Paralympic contingent, who are all set to represent the country at the prestigious Paralympics event in Paris. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a one-on-one interaction with these para-athletes and wished them good luck for the event. Here's more.
After the successful conclusion of Paris Olympics 2024, all eyes are now set on Paris Paralympics 2024, which is scheduled to take place from 28th of August in Paris. Ahead of the prestigious Games, Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the Indian para contingent. During the interaction, Prime Minister lavished praise and congratulated the para athletes going to the event. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also added that India's athletes have conquered the challenges of the society.
ये यात्रा आपके जीवन की, आपके कैरियर की बेहद महत्वपूर्ण यात्रा होने जा रही है। आपकी सफलता बताती है कि आप विपरीत हवाओं का ही नहीं, विपरीत तूफानों का मुकाबला करने का मादा रखते हैं। आपने समाज की स्थापित मान्यताओं को हराया है। आपने शरीर की चुनौतियों को हराया है। इसलिए सफलता के मंत्र भी आप ही हैं। सफलता के उदाहरण भी आप स्वयं हैं और सफलता के प्रमाण भी आप ही हैं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with para archer Sheetal Devi, who's already taken the world of para athletics by storm, becoming the world's first armless archer. While interacting with the Prime Minister, Sheetal Devi said that she is determined to see the national flag fly high at the upcoming Paralympics event.
शीतल, पेरिस पैरालंपिक में आपका अपना लक्ष्य क्या है और आपने इसके लिए तैयारी क्या की है और कैसे की है?
यस सर, मेरी तैयारी बहुत ही अच्छी चल रही है, ट्रेनिंग भी बहुत अच्छी चल रही है सर। और मेरा लक्ष्य यही है कि मैं अपना देश का तिरंगा यहाँ पे लहराऊं, अपना जो एंथम यहाँ पे बजाऊं। सर, मेरा यही लक्ष्य है और इससे बढ़कर सर मेरा कुछ नहीं।
Paris Paralympics will begin from the 28th of August and will witness many firsts like the inclusion of para-cycling, para-rowing and blind judo. India will participate in 12 sporting disciplines with its largest ever contingent of 84 para-athletes who will be vouching for glory at the coveted Paris Paralympics event. Sports Desk, DD India.
So that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram at DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvita Neja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.